Listen, man, I'm having an absolute blast covering the W this season in the Valkyries. And I'm super grateful that I've got basketball to watch right now. And part of this video is me wanting to encourage you to join in on watching the W. Now, everything is relative. When I started covering the Valkyries at the beginning of the year, I encouraged y'all to not compare it to the NBA, right? And I think for me, adapting and watching and understanding was easier because my daughters played basketball. My youngest plays college basketball. So I have a better understanding of the women's game. But listen, if you may not have a kid yet. You may have a niece, a nephew. I think it's a great example when you go to a youth sports game, right? Let's just say it's your nephew, Pop Warner, right? Okay. They're not, it's not exactly Kyle Shanahan with the offensive scheme and CMC, right? But what you realize is that once you're invested in a player, a person, a story, the team, the skill level becomes relative, right? And it becomes just more about that in the story and in the development. And that's not to say that the W isn't skilled, because they're highly skilled. I think what people confuse it with is the physical attributes. The athleticism is where there's a huge gap. And what's interesting in the women's game is it's not, our best women athletes don't play basketball. There's softball, volleyball, soccer, right? Like it's not predicated on athleticism. It's predicated on skill. And so I think once you understand that, and once you learn the stories, the drama, the skill, and invest in some of these players, you can easily look past the fact that, yeah, they may sell on a layup, right? Or you watch, right? You see them stumble and not be able to get to a loose ball, and the casual goes, "Oh my goodness, like I could have, what is that?" Right? But if you watch the skill of the good players, in turn, as far as reading the floor, setting up angles, and because the game is ground-based, it's not played above the rim, it's not vertical. There's so many players in the NBA that they're not really good at basketball. And when I mean basketball, again, I mean reading the floor, setting up an angle, understanding anticipating what's happening next on the floor. They're just such great athletes, and they're 6'8", they're out there. In the WNBA, that's not what it's about. And so the skill really does shine through once you understand what you're watching, right? Now, when you get to the stories and investing, there's more variables than in an NBA season, in an NBA game, right? And it's almost like the NFL. I use the Pop Warner analogy, but it's almost like in the NFL in the sense of, look, you see this all the time. It's going to happen It's going to happen this year on 5 different teams. Linebacker gets hurt, right? In comes a 3rd-year, 5th-round pick, and the guy never looks back. Takes the spot, never gives it back, and becomes like this really good player, right? In the W, this type of stuff happens because there's only 13 teams and there's so little opportunity. And I think the scouting needs a lot of work, right? The decision-making on the rosters is weird. But because of the physicality of the league, you see all these injuries, which I'm not celebrating that, but what I'm celebrating is the opportunity that these girls waiting at home step in, and you're like, wait a minute. We just signed this girl to a 7-day hardship exemption. Why isn't she in the league? Like, she might be better than the girl she's replacing. And so that adds to the variable of the season and a night-to-night basis. You're seeing it right now at the end of the year with these teams that are injury-plagued. And you're like, no, these girls deserve their opportunity to be in the league, and some of them may not give it back. And the fact that you can hit on a random player mid-season who wasn't on a roster adds to the excitement in the storyline of the W, right? And then, listen, we've all heard the phrase, or you've heard people say, well, women don't like each other, right? Or like the phrase cattiness, right? I think that there are various reasons why one thing I really like is it's not nearly as chum as the NBA, where they all played AAU together. They're all millionaires, and at the end of the day, they dap up, they smile, and they hit the club. That ain't going on. Don't get me wrong. There are friendships and relationships, But generally speaking, I think there are a few things that make it more chippy and more competitive as far as just like attitude towards each other. One, there are fewer spots, right? We're talking about 13 teams. There's just fewer opportunity and there's less money. There's only a handful of star players that are really caking up and making money, and the rest are trying to hold on to their spot and make more money. So that naturally is going to cause more conflict, more competitiveness, right? And then listen, I think women interpret disrespect differently, right? Men are from, what's the book? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Maybe I'm saying that backwards, right? But there are just some innate differences between men and women and how they view things. And I'll give you an example of how fragile, or that's not the right word. It's not fragile, but how important the chemistry is on a women's team in the W, that they're connected, and that can lift a team with less talent far higher than a team that some of these teams we'll talk about that aren't connected, possibly, right? But if you notice in the W, when a player goes down, all four other players on the floor at the time run over and help pick her up, right? And it's a sign of unity. It's a sign of chemistry. I believe it is coached up, but I think it's also in turn to make sure that the player that goes down doesn't interpret something wrong. Like if one of the players just like doesn't help him up and kind of like walks away or doesn't look right, it's to protect against that. Because again, women are different. Where with men, right, the teammate may go down and in the other his teammate may go complain to the ref and not even look at him, and it'll just won't be a thing. Where I think in the women's game, there's more little things like that can build and hurt the chemistry of a team, right? So again, don't get me wrong. It's not that there isn't friendships, stud buds, and sportsmanship, but I think overall there's just a chippiness and more competitiveness because there's less spots, there's less money, and women are wired different. And that adds to just the night to night, like, ooh, these two don't like each other for real. That's fun. Before we get into the teams and the different storylines, though, I'm really excited to announce new sponsorship on the channel, Prize Picks. And a lot of you know how they get down. I really love the games. There's a free to play, but you pick two players in your lineup and you go more or less, and you play to win. Right now, you can use my code Alchemy and play $5 and you'll get a $50 bonus in your lineups moving forward. You can scan the QR code. Now, in a video here before the weekend, I'm going to give my week 1 picks for the Niners, but I'm really excited for Prize Picks to be a part of the channel and the different ways you can play with them. So it's a great way to support the channel. That's Prize Picks. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code now. All right, one more point here to why it makes things interesting on a night-to-night basis and then storylines develop is coaches, they're not afraid to bench players in the W. In the NBA, it's like the rotations are so predictable, right? Now, there may be your 5th starter, right? There's the 5th starter, your 6th or 7th guy drops out like this. But generally speaking, in the NBA, like your 4 or 5 guys, they're going to play heavy minutes. In the W, it changes, man. And again, we can get back to the money, which is going to increase here soon, but there's less big money players. So I think that empowers the coaches. But I also think that there is more of just a team mentality of like, hey, next man up, next woman up, and back to there's the amount of untapped talent. You'll see midway through a season, they'll go to a player that's not playing, like the 10th player on the bench, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, they should have been playing. Like, this is what's going on here. And again, just adds to the unpredictability and intrigue night to night and of the big picture season in the W. Now, let's start with the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark, she's going to draw the headline, CC. They may just be too snake bitten, right? Cunningham goes down, McDonald goes down. They're on their 3rd or 4th hardship exemption. Ariel Powers, Chloe Bibby, and again, these girls look like they're going to stick in the league. They look like they should be in there, but they've been too snake bitten. Not to mention, Caitlin seems like she's missed the entire season. The groin is funky. You could tell the last time she heard it, how upset she was, like she knew. Now, they're gonna get in the playoffs here. They're gonna what's the word? They're gonna back into the playoffs here with this injured roster, and maybe she's gonna give it a go. But I think that the story is Aaliyah Boston, and the leap, do you want to call it a leap that she's taken without Caitlin Clark? Shout out to Kelsey Mitchell. I said it in yesterday's breakdown, pound for pound, might be the most athletic player in the league. Like she's just a bucket, man. Fun to watch. But Aaliyah Boston, I know she's put up monster numbers and she's an all-star. And, I've called her overrated in the past. And people are like, oh, what do you mean? And I will say, I'll turn on a Fever game sometimes and she will look like prime Shaquille O'Neal. Like she's just putting people in the basket and just completely dominating the game. And you're like, oh, okay, wow. Like she's taking a leap here without Caitlin, right? And then you turn on another game a week later, she's kind of nowhere to be found, right? The Valkyries shut her down. I think Temi just big bros her, right? Temi played for the Fever a year ago. She just big bros her. So I get sometimes it's matchup dependent, but you know who Aaliyah Boston reminds me of is Anthony Davis, right? Because again, sometimes you turn on AD and he's a world beater, and then sometimes you're like, well, where's he at? And the root of it is the baseline of motor or competitive spirit. Now, I don't know if it's her competitive spirit, but it's just her motor. I think when I see Aaliyah Boston, I think she has to be fired up and motivated to play how you want her to be the star that people claim that she is. It's not her baseline, right? True stars, Giannis is a great Asia. Their baseline is fired up every game. Every game they're coming at you. Aaliyah, it's like AD. It's up and down, and I think her baseline isn't high enough as far as like motor and just going at people, right? But yeah, I think that they're too snake bitten, and I think that ultimately when CC decides to come out, that will unlock the true Mamba in her. And we'll see when that happens. I'm gonna leave that right there. But what I wanted to bridge that into was, give me Paige Beckers over Caitlin Clark. I had said it about a month ago in passing, right? And I think that when I watch Paige, if you want to break it down, I think that she's just a more adaptable leader. I think that you can fit more pieces around her. She's going to lead better. She's more likable. I know that that's subjective, but clearly the league likes her more. She is UConn Illuminati. I understand that, but you hear the phrase, they want to win, but they want to win on their terms, right? And that's what I see with CC at this stage. And she's still young. She's still developing, right? But Caitlin she's much more quick to get frustrated, right? And kind of try to bump her head against the wall when they're sending two in the traps. Paige is more adaptable in how the way she's like, oh, you're gonna send two at me high? Okay. You know what I'm saying? She's more adaptable and she doesn't necessarily have to win on her terms. And so ultimately to me, again, when you're talking about building a contender, I think you're going to be able to fit a bigger variety of players around Paige that'll work than CC. And so that's why I think, look, they're both going to be stars in two of the faces of the league, but I think it's a fun conversation. And if we're having a draft, give me Paige. Give me Paige. Now, the question that I do have for her is, you heard Gino, say, hey, she's the next Taurasi. Saw her at 15, 16 years old in Minnesota, and she's the next Taurasi, right? Taurasi was nails tough, bro. Taurasi was naturally mean, right? And I mean that in a good way, but she was tough. She was chippy. I highly recommend the Taurasi doc on Amazon. It's one of my favorite of the recent years of sports docs, but there's so much Kobe in Taurasi, right? And Paige, when you talk about baselines of personality, don't get me wrong, she's a competitor. You don't get to the point she is without being a competitor. But she's nice. And I don't know if she's as tough as Taurasi, because the league and how good she is, she's going to have to get tougher physically. But that coach in Dallas, bro, the yoga instructor, are they tanking for Ozzy? Are they going to pair them up? Because that coach, I don't know, bro. I don't know. That brings me to my squad, the Golden State Valkyries in their first season. The most wins by an expansion team in the history of the league. In the history of sport, or just the W? I mean, sport doesn't matter because teams, I guess, played different amounts of games. So it's got to be just the W, right? I think the root of the success for this Valkyries team is you hire Natalie Nakase, right? but not just hire her, completely empower her to basically choose this roster. And she's already been embedded in the W on Becky Hammond's bench and just ton of experience around it. Clippers, like she knew the exact players that she wanted to target and what type of culture she wanted to build. And listen, all these coaches talk about toughness, right? And dogs and this and that. Like, how much of that can you teach? Ultimately, you got to bring in those players that are naturally that to build that culture. And I think that Natalie, if I were to guess, her first pinpointed player that she was like, hey, this is going to be the head of the snake is Veronica Burton, right? 7th pick out of Northwestern, bounced around the league, 25 years old. Again, we talk about opportunities in this league and untapped potential. Nat identified Veronica Burton's untapped potential. And I got to say, there was times early in the year where I was like, okay, I get it. She's no doubt a all-league defender, right? She's tough. I see all that. I was like, offensively, she leaves quite a bit to be desired. I thought that she was struggling to attack angles. Her three ball's fine. She just didn't confidently want to take it, and it was, I just didn't know if she opened up things enough for the offense having the ball in her hands that much. And we've slowly but surely seen her figure out, hey, when I'm even, I'm leaving. Like I'm strong. I'm the lower player. I'm going to get into the hips. I'm going to finish. She's turning the corner, showing that strength, confidently stepping and hopping into threes. And the offensive game has slowly but surely come along to where now we're talking about, the most improved player in the league. The defense had been there, right? The other thing, though, that I've been taken back by, and I'm not exaggerating, as I've watched her, she might have the greatest motor I have ever seen in a basketball player. It is insane. It is insane. And it's not just physical. It's mental. And Nat was like, that's who's going to lead this team. And you've heard the story. Go check out the Marcus Thompson article on The Athletic. Like her family, she comes from a football family. Grandpa was a quarterback. Dad played football. Brother played football. And you can see the football mentality in her where she'll be pushing the ball up the court and you can see her consciously make the decision like, I'm going to run 100 miles into you. We're going to have a collision and I'm just going to relentlessly do it every time I can. She never backs down from a collision and running through the contact. But then she strings efforts together. You'll watch a sequence where she'll switch over the top of a screen twice, box somebody out, dive for a loose ball, and then ask for the ball to inbound and push the ball up the court and just not bat an eye. Like I've never seen her physically wilt, and I've never seen her mentally take a break. It's just a constant stream. It's the craziest motor I've seen in basketball, and it's very much a football mentality with the willingness to run through bodies and just keep going by any means necessary. It's so impressive, man. This team is so fun to watch, and she is the head of the snake, and the story of it, her and Nat Nakase is she's her Padawan, right? She's her protege. And I started to just realize it as time went on, like, I see what they were doing here with this, right? But the next part would be the French connection. I don't know what type of agreement they have with the French national team, but you've got Carla Late, you've got Janelle Salon, and then Ileana Rupert comes over. And Salon, of late, that's one of the things that's happening right now is they've had to go to this jumbo lineup with Chechi out and Tip out. Salon and Rupert have this like synergy. They've played in big, Olympic games together, and they just kind of know where each other are on the court. And Rupert, I'm a little worried about her getting played off the floor defensively. What she's done to the offense so they can truly play 5 out has been huge, right? Janelle, as they call her, is him. She's just him. Like she has just the right of irrational confidence. And then she, at her size, at 6'2", 6'3", and she shoots it up top her head like I do. You got to do that. These low releases, man, I'm telling you. But the ability to get her shot off whenever she wants with just the right amount of irrational confidence and swagger, and she's very exciting prospect. I think her, if you want to big picture it, Burton and those two, could be the top 1-2 punch. But then you got Chechi. Cecilia Zendelicini. Am I pronouncing that right? You better learn the name because she's got the Mamba bag. She's got a Kobe bag. She wears 24, and you just got to watch her once. The footwork, the fade, how she gets to her shot, man, she's one of my favorite players to watch. Absolute bucket. We need her for a playoff run. And again, I'll do more as the playoffs start here, you'll get more Valkyrie coverage on YouTube. And then Tiffany Hayes, man, is just an absolute pure hooper. To me, she is the type of player where it's like she can do whatever you ask her to. It's like, hey, Tip, go distribute. Hey, Tip, go get us a bucket. Go defend, the best player. She's just a pure hooper. She's the type that if she didn't come out of retirement a year ago, like she'd be hooping somewhere for free. Like she's just a hooper. So we're going to need her and Chechi for the season. But yeah, overall, man, I think that empowering Nakase to handpick the players has been huge. And then understanding to tap into the international players. I don't know how to pronounce the girl we drafted's name, but I'm assuming she's going to be really good because of the other players that they've brought in. It's like they clearly know what they're doing. She's going to be nice. I think the bigger question will be who do you protect in this supplemental draft? But as far as the playoffs go, call me crazy. I know they're playing the Liberty tonight. I almost want the Liberty, depending on how it matches up. Atlanta and Phoenix have just proven to be matchup problems with their size and physicality. No one wants to play the Lynx, right? We'll get to them here in a second, but defending, I guess the problem I think with the Liberty I'd have is the whistle they get in the Barclays is crazy. But I think that, we'll talk about them. But yeah, the Valkyries, I've broken down every game on my Patreon. It's a great way to support me and super grateful for this team being built because it's really given me something to do during the summer, the off season with no Warriors basketball. And I've absolutely fallen in love with this team. It's really fun. Let's go to the Aces. The Aces, from an NBA comparison, it was like when KD left the Warriors. Kelsey Plum goes to LA. Not that Kelsey Plum compares to KD, but the team, it felt like it was over. The run was over. They had their run. They're a little older. They're a little more content, right? And they started off the first part of the season. It was like, oh, they're kind of cooked. They're kind of cooked, right? And then they go into Minnesota about a month ago and take the worst loss in franchise, probably in the W history. They lost by 50. They got 50 balled in Minnesota. And they haven't lost since. They haven't lost since. A'ja Wilson re-snatching the crown at this stage, it's super impressive, man. It's because it felt like, again, that it was kind of a changing of the guard. The Aces have had their run. Not that A'ja was too old, but it was like, Queen Fee. Here comes Caitlin. Paige is entering the league. Like there's going to be a new, she's not going to be the MVP of the league, right? Well, she's the MVP of the league, man. She is dominant. And again, for her to get this second wind, this second run of sitting atop the throne in the crown, highly impressive, man. It'd be like, if you don't understand it'd be like, who would it be like doing right now? I want to say Giannis, but Giannis quite hasn't fallen off that yet. He's still been in the mix, but like there's some Giannis comparisons in her motor and in her natural bulliness of how she plays. But to add the three ball at this stage, just super GOAT characteristics. Listen, if the Aces somehow win this year, because I mean they're the hottest team in the league right now, she's going to enter the GOAT discussion. She's going to enter the GOAT discussion. Some may have her there already, but like, my goodness. And you know what's funny? I was thinking too, I see these big kids at LA Fitness that were they played as the big in high school. So they were like 6'5", 6'6", right? But now they're playing at a JUCO or they're trying to get into college basketball onto a team, and they're like trying to play as a guard now. And it's kind of too late for that. If you've been playing as center and power forward, all through high school, they need to play like A'ja. A'ja, if you're a big body and pick up at rec leagues and you're 6'4", 6'5", play like A'ja. That's the blueprint. Nail game, triple threat, efficient threes, bully ball, footwork. But not everybody can do it. That's why she's special, right? But the other aspect, I think, for the Aces' success is Chelsea Gray, the point guard, finally looks healthy, right? She finally looks healthy. It's taken about 2 seasons. And then they get, what's her name, Nyla? Is it Nyla? Nalissa. I think it's Nalissa Smith, who had bounced around Fever, Wings, And everyone had seen the talent with her, but she was kind of a goofball. And she just wasn't fitting into, she's so talented. I think she wanted the ball more. She wasn't willing to accept a role. And the Aces, they took a gamble. They're like, we see the talent. We're struggling. We'll bring her in. And I think, one, you got the point guard diming her up. And Asia. It's enhanced her playing with these Hall of Fame players has made her accept her role. And she's flourishing in it, right? So you've got that. And yeah, man, they're just, they're a spooky team right now. I don't know. I think that if I were to guess, I think that the run that they made now to turn the season around, they'll probably run out of gas before getting to the finals. But if Asia can do it again, man, yeah, GOAT conversation. Which brings me to the Minnesota Lynx. They're just possessed, right? They're out for revenge. I thought they got screwed last summer in Barclays Center. Stewie not only traveled, but then there was a phantom whistle. She traveled and then got a phantom whistle to essentially win the championship. It was nasty work, and they're looking for revenge. Then they add Dejanay Carrington. The best comp I can give you is it's like when the Thunder added Caruso. It's like just what they needed, a tough wing defender, and she's flourishing, right? And I think that the system, the coach, the pedigree of this team, what's so tough is like, look, you could take Fee out. You could take Nafisia out of a series, a game, and they'll still win. They have 6 or 7 players that can carry them on a given night. And because the system is so dialed in, it's very hard to take away what they do. It's very hard. And, I think the easy money is on them to get it done this year, barring some sort of injury. And Carrington just puts them over the top. I don't think it'll be the Liberty that they see, though. That's maybe my hot take on this. To me, I look at this defending champion Liberty team. They just don't defend well enough. They just don't. What's the girl they brought over, Messaman? Right? Look, she's a bucket. She's a hefty bucket, right? I see the offensive skill, but teams are going to pull her out to the three-point line. She can't guard out in space. Neither can Jonquel. Sabrina and Marina, they try, but they get bullied. They just don't defend the ball well enough. They don't defend well enough. I don't see that, I don't see it. And look, they can light it up, right? I say this now, and they'll probably, hang 100 on the Valkyries tonight in San Francisco. But I think that at the end of the day, ultimately, they're not going to be able to get stops when it matters. Now, maybe that Barclays Center whistle will help them out a little bit. But yeah, I don't think that this is their year. And maybe I'm foolish to want them in the first round. But I see a lot of weakness with them this year. They're going to have to, I know they brought in Cloud to try to shore up the on-ball defense. It's not enough. They're bigs, it's just not enough. Now, who may have a shot is the Phoenix Mercury. First off, they're very well coached, right? And then you bring in Alyssa Thomas, who the more and more I watch her, what I think of? I think this is who you hoped Russell Westbrook would have grown into. Their games are very similar, but Alyssa's much more of a winning player. She plays how you'd want Westbrook to have played in his prime. Like, hey, defend, use your physical motor and attributes to defend, push the ball and distribute, but some of it's just basketball IQ, right? She's just like a smarter player than Westbrook, right? Which is maybe not saying a whole lot. But AT, absolutely, I think in the MVP conversation is the engine, the leader, the toughness. I've gone to several Mercury games this year, and in person, you watch between the whistles. She just owns the court. She just snarling at people, walking through bodies. She's the undisputed leader and engine of this Mercury team. And then you've got Ka Copper, who is just a straight bucket, right? She's the get out of the way, we need a bucket scorer. She also plays and plays well off AT and pace, right? And then if that's not matchup friendly, right, with Ka Copper, then Satu can be that matchup on given nights where she's the unicorn at 6'4", she take you out, shoot threes. She just moves so fluidly at that size that she's a mismatch problem. You got snipers all around them when they're pushing the ball, right? And then DeWanna Bonner comes off the bench playing the stretch 5, just popping threes as the centers don't get out. And so they have a recipe, and they've got a real shot this year, depending just on how the chips fall. And they're not a team I'd want to play in the playoffs, I'll tell you that much. And then the other team I think similarly in this boat is the Atlanta Dream. the Dream and the Mercury, two teams that have kind of overachieved. It's not shockingly, but it's like, oh, dang, they're actually maybe contenders, right? And I know that a lot of people want to give Allisha Gray like MVP talk. She's good. Don't get me wrong, but to me, if you were to give her the MVP, look, she's not winning it, but if you were to give her, it would be like giving Tatum the MVP for the Celtics, right? Where it's like Allisha just benefits too much from the other pieces in my eyes. Like Ryan Howard, a lot of the time draws the tougher matchup than Allisha, right? And then the two bigs draw double teams every time they touch the ball, which they spray out for three, right? And so, like, I don't want to take anything away from her. She's clearly an all-star player, but I think that when you look at what's around her, that's maybe what's made her jump quite a bit, because it's really well-built team. They're physical, they're tough. I think that the question for them is now they're bringing BG off the bench, and they're trying to empower Naz Hillman, where, look, I see it. I get why they want her to be this player because of her motor, very quick second jump. She's versatile defender. But if they're going to be relying on Naz Hillman to hit threes down the stretch of big games, like, I don't know. Like, they've given her a green light with that. I don't know about that. But I get why they want her to be that spot. But like the Mercury, I think if things fall right, Atlanta, they've got a chance to make some noise in these playoffs. Now, Seattle Storm. I watched that Sparks game last night, right? Valkyries' interest involved, and the Storm just don't deserve to make the playoffs. You've watched them blow too many. Like they're just not a connected team. I talked about team chemistry and how important it is in the W. And I think a lot of it may have to do with Skylar Crash Out Diggins being the head of the snake in their point guard. She's just too volatile. She's too up and down emotionally in a given game, and that's why you see them look like world beaters and then fall apart, because their leader, their point guard, is emotionally unstable, right? NECA is in the twilight, I really like Gabby Williams. I like the Sykes move. And, when they're making threes, they look tough. Listen, the rookie Malonga, she's coming. She's going to be a problem. I think that's the silver lining with their season, that Malonga is going to be a problem. But as far as fit and chemistry, I just don't see it for them. They blow another big lead against the Sparks last night, who are trying to make this playoff team. Look, the Sparks, to me, while I do enjoy watching them for various reasons, they all think they're the main character, except for maybe Cam Brink, right? Who at some point she might, once she gets her confidence back in her knee. No, but Plum just, she tries to do too much, Like I like Plum, but when I'm watching them, like she'll have possessions where she dribbles like 15 times. And Rakia, to me, looks like she's ready to be the go-to option. Like she might be, her and Sonia Citron, my two favorite scorers to watch in the W. And she's a problem. Hamby is such a menace. I love Hamby's game because it's all within the flow, right? Like she doesn't really need touches. She just like rim runs you, slips, angles, like catches. She's always got energy in her feet when she catches the ball to rock it up to the rim. Hamby is like super underrated, man. They've got a ton of talent. They're one of the more talented teams in the league, but ultimately they've got too many pretty girls that just want to score the ball, right? Like they don't have enough dogs. They need a couple dogs on this team. Like, what do you know? Like the pretty girls don't rebound the ball. Like you look at their stats, right? And so they've got a lot of talent. They can score with anybody, but you need a couple dogs on the team to just toughness, rebounding, and different types of players, right? They don't have a Draymond. They don't have an Andre. They're all just, give me the ball, I want to score. And so I like watching them, and they can light it up, but ultimately I think they got to kind of reconfigure their roster. And then when Cam gets healthy, ultimately she can maybe anchor the defense at the rim, but they got to get tougher and maybe sacrifice one of these scorers for a more utilitarian player that is a defender and a tone setter with toughness. All right, I think that's all I got on the W. I went here for a while. We had 40 minutes, y'all. Anyway, man, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I encourage y'all to check out the Valkyries and the playoffs because there's going to be a lot of storylines, a lot of drama, a lot of unpredictability. Again, Prize Picks, the link's in the description. It's a great way to support. You can play for free. Just use my code or scan it, and it's a way to support the channel. Like I'm really diving into covering the W, and it's not about views. It's about the love of the game, and it's about what it is. And so if you want to support me for doing that, again, that would be the best way. And expect more W coverage, Valkyrie coverage when the playoffs start here. It's going to be fun. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.